Testing. Testing. Stop hosting MST3K, which is just always playing. Is it working? Hello? I suppose there's a delay. I clicked stream, right? Yeah, I clicked start streaming on OBS. Or are we working now? Okay, I guess it's working. It's kind of weird to be looking at myself instead of at a game. I'm trying something new here today. Thought I would read out some Canterbury Tales and play some Pennywhistle, and if I'm the only one who cares about this, who gives a shit? I'm having fun. Okay. I'll just go for it. I don't know. You gotta warm up your whistle first. That's important. And of course, proper fingering techniques. Very important. I shouldn't be leaning back so much. It's been a while since I got the whistle out. I'd played the flute for a long time, so it was pretty easy to pick up. It's a lot simpler than remembering flute fingerings. It's fairly straightforward. And you can get one for, I think I got this for like $20 online, and it's from Ireland and everything, so it's good quality and for not much money. Not actually for a penny, and not actually made of tin. It's made of brass, but, you know, bit of a misnomer with both the names there. Let's attempt some proper posture here. I messed up the end a little bit there, but concerning hobbits, yeah, drop the flute. Hello, Alan. I don't know a whole lot else, but the first thing I ever bothered figuring out on it was concerning hobbits, which is one of the first songs to place in the Lord of the Rings movies, and also what I had play as my wedding processional. Okay, and it's been a while, but just by ear, I figured out the intro to Final Fantasy XIV. Let's see if I remember. Is A wind instrument. Kind of lost my train of music there. One flute tune from Pokemon 2000. I don't know if don't know if I'm familiar with that one. If you have actually seen the intro for Final Fantasy XIV, this is not soothing. There's a big battle going on. I guess I was doing a sadder version. Well, I mean, it's one of those badass but also sad things. You should go watch the intro. It's pretty awesome. Something explodes in the sky and a dragon comes out. It's pretty fucking epic. It's been a while since I practiced. I will have to let some more music run around in my brain. In the background here, I just put my, I'm not sure what I'm pointing to. I'm seeing myself on both screens. It's a little odd. I think now that I configured OBS, I'm gonna minimize that so it doesn't freak me out so much. I'm awkward enough in only seeing myself once. I don't need to see two of me. That's just too much. Oh, well, you should be familiar with Final Fantasy things. Though speaking of which, I know I'd figured out the Chocobo theme at some point, but it's been so long. I need to get myself some water. I picked up this copy of the Canterbury Tales, I don't know how long ago, because I fucking love lubed bookstores. That's not the kind of bookstore I was talking about. Used bookstores, not lubed bookstores. Loser bookstores, and that's probably ones I've been to too. Let's not lie. Yeah, I see myself in the mirror. It's like, oh no, it's you again. How awkward. I feel like I've seen you somewhere before. I don't know. But I hadn't really looked through this much before. I just realized that we've got the ye old English on the left and a more modern translation on the right. So I think I'll try a bit of both, but after I do some of the ye old English, I'll probably go mainly towards the right there. Oh no, it's extra easy to get inside a lubed bookstore. Obviously, because it's all over the door. Anyway. Here beginneth the book of the Tales of Canterbury. Here begins the book of the Canterbury Tales. One that April with his showers sought, the drought of March hath pierced to the root, and bathed every vein in switch liquor, of which virtue engendered is a flower, when Zephyrus eke with his sweet breath inspired hath in every holt and heath, the tender crops and the young sun hath in the ram his half-course Euron, and small fowls making melody that sleep in all the nights with open eye, so pricketh him nature in her courages. Even if you can't figure it out, it sounds pretty awesome, doesn't it? I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly because things weren't really pronounced the same, but it's a little easier to tell from looking at it, but I imagine just hearing it, at least some of that's probably like, what were you saying? Anyway, let's, after some of that fun, let's move to, this must be public domain by now, so it's not like somebody's gonna come after me for this. We got that old book smell. If you like that smell, I wish you could smell it. Old book smell, the smell of death. Welcome to spooky season, smell that death in the pages. Okay. The prologue in ye modern English. When April with his sweet showers has pierced the drought of March to the root, and bathed every vein in such moisture as has power to bring forth a flower, when also Zephyrus with his sweet breath has breathed spirit into the tender new shoots in every wood and meadow, and the young sun has run half his course in the sign of the ram, and small birds sing melodies and sleep with their eyes open all the night, so nature pricks them in their hearts. Then people long to go on pilgrimages, and palmers long to seek strange shores and far-off shrines known in various lands, and especially from the ends of every shire in England they come to Canterbury to seek the holy, blissful martyr who helped them when they were sick. See glossary. I don't feel like going to the glossary right now. There's an asterisk on martyr for some reason. I'm not going to flip there right now. It's useful that there's a glossary, though, and ye old and modern translations. Very useful. Thank you, whatever used bookstore I got this from. It befell that one day in that season, as I was in Southwark at the Tabard Inn, ready to go on my pilgrimages to Canterbury with a most devout heart, a night there came into that hostelry a company of 29 people, all sorts of people who had met by chance, and all of them were pilgrims who were riding toward Canterbury. The chambers and the stables were spacious, and we were made most comfortable. And shortly, when the sun had gone down, I had spoken with every one of them, so that I soon became one of their group, and made an arrangement to rise early to be on our way, as I shall tell you. But nonetheless, while I have time and space, before I pass on further in this tale, methinketh that accordant to resound. Oh, let's not accidentally go to the left side of the page. That sounds so much better than it seems to me in order, though. We should bring back some more of this Old English speak. That sounds so much more badass to say that seems to be in order. To instead of it seems to me that is in order to say methinketh it accordant to resound. Doesn't that sound so much more badass than that seems to be in order? We should bring some of this shit back. Methinketh it accordant to resound. Yes, and that seems to be accordant to resound, indeed. It seems to me in order to tell you all about each of them as they seem to me, and who they were, and of what rank in life, and also what they wore. And with the night, then, I will begin. Oh, and we even hear about what they wore, ladies and gentlemen. We've even got the costume porn in here. That's not a new thing with the modern soap operas, ladies and gentlemen. Gotta have the costume porn. There was a knight, a valiant man, who from the time when he had first begun to venture out had loved chivalry, truth and honor, liberality and courtesy. He had proved his worth in his lord's wars, in which he had ridden as far as any man, both in Christendom and in heathen lands. Yeah, the references in medieval stuff to things like that don't hold up very well today. But anyway, oh yes, the heathens that must be converted. How about no? But that's them's were the times. But anyway, both in Christendom and in heathen lands, and he had always been honored for his valor. He was at Alexandria when it was won. Many times he sat at the head of the table in Prussia above knights of all nations. He had campaigned in Lithuania and in Russia more often than any other Christian man of his rank. He had also been in Granada at the siege of Algeciras, I probably butchered that, and had fought in Benmarin. He had been at Lias and at Italia when they were won, and he had sailed upon the Mediterranean with many a noble host. He had been in 15 mortal battles, and fought for our faith at, I don't know how to say that, Tlemcen, 3 times in tournaments, and always slain his foe. The same worthy knight is capitalized, so you know he's a very important knight with a capital K, had also been at one time with the Lord of Balat, I probably mispronounced that, against another heathen in Turkey, and always he had won the highest honor. Although he was valiant, he was prudent, and bore himself as meekly as a maiden. I don't exactly bear myself meekly, but I suppose that's supposed to be a compliment here. I'm not meek, it's called anxiety. Never in all his life had he been rude to anyone at all. He was a true, perfect, gentle knight. But to tell you about his array, his horses were good, but he was not gaily dressed. He wore a fustian tunic, much stained by his hauberk, for he had just come back from his expedition and was on his way to make his pilgrimage. Oh no, this is going to be really tough if I can't say pilgrimage. We're going to be saying that a lot. With him was his son, a young squire, a lover and a gay youth on his way to knighthood. And in these times, gay youth probably just means cheerful. Let's keep that in mind. I mean, not that there aren't undertones of other things in books of the time, but with locks as curly as if they had been pressed. He was about 20 years old, I guess. He was of normal height and wonderfully agile and of great strength. He had been on cavalry expeditions for a while, in Flanders and in Artois and in Picardy, and in this short time he had borne himself well, and in the hope of winning his lady's favour. I am not the best at place names. Some of them I know, some of them I do not. His clothing was embroidered so as to look like a meadow all full of fresh flowers, white and red. And I think you don't have to be gay to like flowers. I mean, flowers are nice. Everybody can like flowers. He sang or fluted all the day long. He was as useful as the month of May. His gown was short with long, wide sleeves. He knew how to sit his horse well and ride beautifully. He could compose songs and poems, joust and dance too, and draw and write. So, I remember these get dirty, but we're starting with it now, apparently. So hotly did he love that at night he slept no more than a nightingale. Oh my, oh my. So hotly did he love every night. So anyway. Yeah, if you're not aware, all of these modern books parents try to complain about, this book is filthy as fuck. Do they not know? Do they not understand? Anyway. He was courteous, humble, and serviceable, and carved for his father at the table. A yeoman was also with the knight. And yeoman is in all caps, so I guess that's another one of our characters. And no other servants at the time, so it pleased him to ride. I did read some of these for my honors English class in high school, though it's been a long time. I don't think we had to read the whole thing, but we read some of it. I know, Shakespeare plays are such wonderful filth. They are wonderful filth. I need to... And fuck Romeo, Mercutio is the best character. Do people not even realize that the first half of Romeo and Juliet is basically a comedy? Mercutio has a pun battle with the nurse. He is best character. Mercutio is best character. Romeo can get fucked. I read Mercutio's lines aloud in class. Amazing. Mercutio, he is the real hero of this picture. And Romeo gets a sign? Romeo gets a statue? Fuck off with that. Mercutio should get a statue. So, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I don't miss most of high school, but I do miss English class. English class was pretty awesome. The people in high school were terrible, but English class was pretty great. Where was I? A yeoman was also with the knight, and no other servants at the time, so pleased him to ride. The yeoman was dressed in a coat and hood of green. Beneath his belt he carefully carried a sheath of bright, keen peacock-feathered arrows. That was a bit of a tongue twister there. Well did he know how to take care of his equipment. His hair was never drooped with tired feathers. I guess that's a compliment. And in his hand he carried a mighty bow. He was a brown-faced man with a close-cropped head. He knew all there is to know about woodcraft. What a man, all there is to know about woodcraft. That's pretty cool. On his arm was a fine wrist guard, and by one side a sword and shield, on the other a bright dagger, well mounted and sharp as the point of a spear. A silver Christopher medal shone on his breast. He carried a horn with a green baldric. I suppose then he must have been a forester. There's also a nun, a prioress, in all caps, so this is another of our characters, whose smile was modest and sweet. Her greatest oath was only, "By St. Loy." She was called Madame Eglantine. Oh, that must be where they got the name for bedknobs and broomsticks from the Canterbury Tales. She was called Madame Eglantine. She sang the divine service well, intoning it in her nose in a most seemly way, and she spoke French well and properly. After the school of Stratford at Bow, for the French of Paris was unknown to her. Her table manners were admirable. She never let a morsel fall from her lips, nor wet her fingers too deeply in the sauce. Daintily she carried a morsel to her lips, taking care that no drop should fall on her breast. She took much pleasure in proper etiquette. She wiped her upper lip so carefully that no trace of grease could be seen in her cup when she had taken a drink from it. She helped herself to food in a very proper way. And certainly she was very cheerful, most pleasant, and amiable in bearing, and took great pains to behave in a well-bred fashion, to be stately in manner, and to appear worthy of reverence. But to speak of her tender feelings, she was so charitable and so full of pity that she would weep if she saw a mouse caught in a trap and dead or bleeding. Well, I mean, I like mice, but you gotta keep them out of your house, lady. You can't cry every time. They're gonna eat your food otherwise. You gotta get them out of your house. Sorry. I like mice, but I don't want them eating my grain, all up in the granary, you know? She had a few small dogs that she fed with roast meat or milk and fine bread, but she wept indeed if one of them died, or someone hit it smartly with a stick. She was all feeling and tender heart. Her wig bowl was suitably pleated, her nose well shaped, her eyes bright as glass, her mouth very small and soft and red, and indeed she had a fine forehead. It was almost a handspan broad, I believe, for certain she was not certainly she was not undersized. She had a 5 head, huh? I know how that is. Yeah, Romeo and Juliet are ridiculous. Let's see. I noticed that her cloak was becoming. Around her arm she wore a rosary of tiny coral beads marked off with green, and on it hung a lovely golden brooch, on which was written first a crowned A, and then Amor Vincit Omnia. With her she had another nun, all caps, so that's a character, who was her assistant, and 3 priests. Three priests and a nun have joined the party. They walk into a bar. The joke follows, fill in a blank, I don't know. There was a monk, a splendid sort, an inspector of his monastery's estates, who loved Veneri. Don't feel like looking that word up. A manly man, capable of being an abbot. He had many a dainty horse in the stable, and when he rode one might hear the bells on his bridle jingle in the wind as loud and clear as the chapel bell in the place where this monk was in charge. It's quite a long prologue here. I wasn't sure how long the prologue is. This is just introducing everybody, and we're not really getting to the fun part yet, are we? I might skip ahead. It's still going. Still going. Let's skip ahead to the Knight's Tale. We're gonna skip ahead to the Knight's Tale, but first I'm gonna get some water. Oh no, where'd the BRB picture go? Bring it to the front. There we go. BRB. Yes, I must fetch a servant to bring me my water goblet. Anyway, I shall return post haste. This is how I start talking after I play some of Final Fantasy XIV, because they do that medieval speak in there. Anyway, BRB. Okay, I've returned with ye old water glass. And what is going on here? Here we go. I'm gonna have to change everything up the next time I do a game stream. Hopefully I'll have enough energy tomorrow to play some more Spiritfarer. Let me see here. What am I doing? Taking the BRB off. Why would my water taste like that? Oh, cause it's so old? I don't know. I've seen some people make cologne that smells like old books. I should get myself some because the smell is the best. And we just got a new viewer when I'm sniffing a book. Of course, that's when somebody comes in. When I'm like, this is just the best smell. Oh, yeah. My phone's ringing. BRB again. Okay, I have returned from my ye old phone call. What were we doing? We're gonna skip ahead to the Knight's Tale because the prologue was a little too boring. It introduces everybody, but then everybody has their own tales, though technically Chaucer never completely finished it. Are there Canterbury Tales fanfictions? There must be somebody weird enough to have done that. I need to look this up. Canterbury Tales fanfiction. I need to find some. Google that for me. Canterbury Tales fanfiction. Is it out there? Rule 34 must be out there. Somebody's done it. If not, maybe I should write some. I don't know. This, Canterbury cream eggs, those are the best. This anime I watched on Netflix recently, it was really good. Carol on Tuesday. It's Musicians on Mars. Sounds weird, but it was awesome. But the last episode, they put up to be continued, but then it was like ... and after to be continued one way it said, in your minds. To be continued in your mind. I looked up songs from it on YouTube later, and people were like, really? What a tease. How dare they? I got excited for a second. I thought it was funny, though, to be continued in your mind. The characters live on. Perhaps you can continue the Canterbury Tales in your mind, or write some Chaucerian fan fiction. Indeed. Anyway, The Knight's Tale. It's got a quote here first. And now Theseus, approaching his native land in laureled chariot after fierce battles with the Scythians, etc. etc. You know, fierce battles, etc. All that shit. Oh, yeah. This ye old English, especially with the quote up there, is a little hard to understand. Once upon a time, as ancient stories tell us, there was a duke who was named Theseus. He was lord and ruler of Athens, and such a conqueror in his day that there was no greater under the sun. He had won many a rich country by virtue of his wisdom and his knightly prowess. He conquered the whole realm of the Amazon women. Oh, sure. He tells everybody that he conquered all the Amazon women. The main point of the prologue, which goes on too long, is basically this group of travelers on a pilgrimage are telling each other the rest of the stories in the book. That's the main point of the prologue that goes on a bit too long. Sure, you conquered all the Amazon women. Sure, you did. Which formerly was called Scythia, and took in marriage Queen Hippolyta, and brought her home with him to his country with much glory and great pomp. And he brought as well her young sister Emily. And thus, with victory and the sound of music, I leave this noble duke riding to Athens, and with him all his force and arms. And indeed, if it were not too long to listen to, I would have wanted to tell you fully the way in which the realm of the Amazons was won by Theseus and his knightly company, and of the singularly great battle between the Athenians and the Amazons, and how siege was laid to Hippolyta, the fair bold queen of Scythia, and of the feast that there was at their wedding, and of the tempest at their homecoming. But for now I must shun all that matter. I have, God knows, a broad field to till, and the oxen pulling my plough are weak. The rest of the tale is long enough. Besides, I don't want to hinder any in this company. Let each of our companions tell his tale in turn, and let us see now who is to win the supper. Oh, right. That was the other main point of the prologue, is if you tell the best tale, then you win. They could have summarized it a lot more. Anyway. Ye old purple prose. Where I left off, I'll begin again. The Duke of whom I speak, when he had come almost to the town, in all his felicity, and in his fullest glory, became conscious as he cast his eye to one side, that in the highway there was kneeling a company of ladies, 2 by 2, each pair behind another, dressed in black. They made such an outcry, and grieved so, that no creature living in this world has heard such another lamentation. They would not leave off this shrieking until they had grasped his bridle reins. What people are you who are at my homecoming thus disturb my celebration with your cries? Said Theseus. Have you such great envy of my honor that you thus complain and cry out? Theseus sounds like a dick. Or who has mistreated or offended you? Tell me if your wrong can be righted, and why you are thus clothed in black. The oldest lady of them all spoke, after she had reeled faintly, with a look of death about her, so that it was pitiable to see and hear her. My lord, to whom fortune has given victory and the life due a conqueror, your glory and honor do not grieve us at all. Rather, we beg for mercy and aid. Have mercy on our woes and our distress. By reason of your gentleness, let some drop of pity fall upon us wretched women. For indeed, my lord, there's not one of us all who has not been a duchess or a queen. Now we are wretches, as is evident, thanks to fortune and her false will, her who assures happiness to no condition of man. Indeed, my lord, to wait your presence we have been attending here in the temple of the goddess Clemency for a fortnight. Now help us, lord, since it is in your power. Wretch that I am, thus weeping and wailing. I was formerly the wife of King Capaneus, who died at Thebes, cursed be the day. All of us who are dressed as you see, and uttering all this lamentation, we all lost our husbands at that city where was being besieged, and just recently, alas, old Creon, who is now lord of the city of Thebes, and full of wrath and evil, out of his spitefulness and tyranny, has piled all the corpses in a heap, in order to do an ungentle deed to the dead bodies of all our husbands who have been slain. You will not allow them by any agreement either to be buried or to be burned, but for spite, as dogs eat them. Wow, that's pretty shitty. What a time they've had. With that word, and without further pause, the women fell prostrate and cried out piteously, "Have some mercy on us, wretched women, and let our sorrow sink into your heart." The gentle Duke jumped down from his horse with pitying heart as he heard them speak. He thought that his heart would break when he saw how pitiable and dejected they were, who formerly were of such high estate. He took up each of them in his arms and comforted them with a good will, and swore, as he was a faithful knight, that he would perform what was in his power in order to avenge them upon the tyrant Creon, to such an extent that all the people of Greece would talk of how Creon was treated by Theseus as a villain who had fully deserved death. And immediately, without further delay, he displayed his banner and rode forth toward Thebes with all his army. He would not walk or ride any nearer to Athens, nor would he rest for half a day, but lodged that night further along on his route. He sent Queen Hippolyta and Emily, her fair young sister, to stay in the city of Athens, and he rode off. There was no more to say. It should just end there. And he rode off. There's more to say at the end. He saved the day, I guess. I don't know. No, that's not the end. But maybe it should be. The red image of Mars with spear and shield so gleamed in Theseus's broad white banner that all the fields round about glistened. Beside his banner was borne his pennon of richest cloth of gold, on which was embroidered an image of the Minotaur, which he had slain in Crete. Thus rode this Duke and Conqueror, with the flower of knighthood in his host, until he came to Thebes and lighted down in splendor in a field where he intended to wage battle. Such talk, very drink. But to make a long story short, I don't think you've been doing that, Nightman. But to make a long story short, he fought with Creon, king of Thebes, and slew him in manly and knightly fashion. Manly and knightly fashion. Of course he did. In open battle, and put Creon's people to flight. Thereafter he won the city by assault and tore down wall and beam and rafter. To the ladies he returned their slain husbands' bones, so that the funeral rites might be celebrated in the way that was then the custom. But it would take all too long to describe the great clamor and lamentation that the ladies made at the burning of the bodies, and the great honor that the noble conqueror Theseus paid to the ladies when they departed from him. To narrate briefly is my intent. I don't think I'd like the dude telling the story. I think he's boring. When this valiant Duke Theseus had killed Creon and thus won Thebes, he took his rest all night upon that same field and dealt with all the country as he wished. Searching in the pile of dead bodies in order to strip them of armor and clothes, the pillagers worked hard and carefully after the battle and defeat. It so happened that they found in the pile, thrust through with many a grievous bloody wound, 2 young knights lying side by side, both in identical arms, which remained most richly. Of the 2, one was named Arcite, and the other knight was called Palamon. They were neither fully alive nor fully dead, but by their coats of arms and other equipment the heralds knew them especially well as the ones who were of the royal line of Thebes, and sons of 2 sisters. The pillagers pulled them from the heap of bodies and carried them gently to the tent of Theseus. Oh, I see how it is. You have to be important enough for them to not pillage your shit. I see how it is. If you're important enough, you don't get pillaged. Well, I never. Yeah, if you're the royal family, you don't get pillaged. I see how it is. I see how it is. I know, right? Imagine being so important that your shit doesn't get pillaged when you die. Theseus immediately sent them to Athens to remain in prison forever. He would not take ransom for them. When the valiant Duke had thus taken action, he took his army and soon rode home, crowned with laurel as a conqueror. And there he lived enjoying honor to the end of his life. What more need be said? And in a tower, in anguish and woe, Palamon and Arcite remain forevermore. No amount of gold might pay for their release. This went on day after day and year after year, until it once happened of a May morning that Emily, who was lovelier to look at than the lily is upon its green stalk, and fresher than May with its spring flowers, for her complexion vied with the color of roses, I do not know which of the 2 was fairer. This Emily was up and already dressed before daybreak, as it was her wont to be, for May won't stand for slugabeds. The season arouses every gentle heart, and makes him start up from his sleep, and says, "Get up, pay me your due homage." May doesn't tell me that. Does the month of May tell you that? It doesn't really tell me that. It tells me to stay in bed. The month of May tells me I can stay in bed for 5 more minutes. All this made Emily take thought to do honor to May and to arise. Her clothes were bright and new in appearance. Her blonde hair was twined in a braid down her back, a yard long by my guess. In the garden at sunrise she walked up and down. According to her fancy, she gathered flowers, some white, some red, to make an artful garland for her head, and she sang in a voice as heavenly as an angel's. The great tower, very thick and strong, which was the chief dungeon of the castle, where those knights of whom I told you, and shall tell you more, were in prison, adjoined the wall of the garden where Emily took her amusement. The sun was bright, and the morning fair. Palamon, the woeful prisoner, as was his wont by his jailer's leave, was up and was walking to and fro in the chamber high in the tower, from which he saw all of the noble city, and the garden too, full of green branches, where lively Emily the fair was at her walk, roaming up and down. Pardon me, my good people, my phone of cell is wont to ring again. Pardon me, mine husband 'twas calling from his place of employment. What somehow sounded filthy? If it's in the Canterbury Tales, sometimes it is intentionally filthy. I'm not sure which part you meant. Oh, some of it is filthy. I haven't seen a whole lot of it yet, other than the knight at least claims that he just has so many lovers every night. What filth, what a dirty book. What a dirty book. Anyway, Emily is at her walk, but the prisoner is being a creep and watching her from the tower. The sorrowful prisoner, this Palamon, walks to and fro in the chamber and complains to himself of his woe. Often he said, alas, that he was born. It so happened, by chance or luck, that through a window, thick with many an iron bar, as large and squared as any beam, he cast his eye on Emily. Therewith he paled and cried out, ah, as though he had been stung to the heart. At that cry Arsat at once jumped up and said, my cousin, what ails you? You are so pale and deathlike to look at. Why did you cry out? Who has done you wrong? For the love of God, resign yourself in all patience to our prison, for it may not be otherwise. Fortune has given us this adversity, some unfavourable aspect or disposition of Saturn, through some arrangement of the heavenly bodies, has bestowed this on us. It would have been so even if we had taken oath to do the opposite. I don't really think that's how it works, but okay. The heavens stood thus when we were born. We must endure it. This is the brief, plain truth. Palamon answered, in fact, cousin, in this opinion of what is wrong, you're harbouring vain imaginings. It was not this prison that made me cry out, but I was hurt just now through my eyes and to my heart. The hurt will be my destruction. The beauty of the lady whom I see wandering yonder in the garden is the cause of all my cries and my woe. I do not know whether she is a woman or a goddess, but my guess is that she is in truth Venus. Fuck off, creep. I know. No, what creeps? With that he fell down on his knees and said, Venus, if it be your will thus to take this shape upon yourself in this garden before me, sorrowful wretched creature, then help us to escape from this prison. And if it be that my destiny is fashioned by eternal decree to die in prison, have some compassion on our family, which is brought so low by tyranny. At that word Arcite espied where that lady was wandering to and fro, and at the sight her beauty touched him so, that if Palamon was sorely wounded, Arcite was hurt as much or more. With a sigh he said pitiably, The lively beauty of her who wanders in that place yonder works sudden death upon me, unless I have mercy and favour from her, so that I may at least see her. I am but dead. There's no more to say.
Oh, fuck off, you creeps. I think that's the more to say here.
Oh, they are so beautiful. Oh, she is such a beautiful maiden. She should free me from this place where I am imprisoned.
Yeah, sure.
Palamon, hearing these words, gave an angry look and answered, Do you say this in earnest, or as a joke? No, said Arcite, in earnest, on my honour. God help me, I've little desire to joke.
Yeah, we know. You're not funny at all.
God help me, I've little desire to joke.
Yeah, I know.
Palamon knitted his brows. It would not, he said, be any great honour for you to be false, or to be a traitor to me, who am your cousin and your sworn brother, bound most solemnly by oath, as each of us is to the other, to the pact that never, even under pain of torture to death, and never, until death shall part us two, shall either of us hinder the other in love, or in any other case, my dear brother. Rather that you should faithfully help me in every situation, and that I should help you. This was your oath, and mine too, in certainty. I know quite well that you dare not deny this. Thus, without a doubt, you belong to my side, and now you would treacherously plan to love my lady, whom I love and serve.
You just met her a minute ago through a window. Chill the fuck out. You don't even know who this lady is. She's not your lady. Get out of here.
Oh, it is Venus, come to free me.
No. Don't. Stop.
Oh, but remember, man, rose before hose. We promised, man. Rose before hose. Don't break the bro night code. And now you would treacherously plan to love my lady, whom I love and serve, and never shall do until my heart perishes. Now, false Arcite, indeed you shall not do so. I loved her first, and told my sorrow to you, as to my helper and my brother, sworn to aid me as I said before, for which cause you are bound as a knight to help me, if it lies in your power. Otherwise you are false, I dare to say it. Arcite replied, in all his pride, You will be false sooner than I, and you are false, I tell you straight out, for before you, I loved her first as a woman. What can you say? Even now you don't know whether she is a woman or a goddess. Your motion pertains to religion. Mine is love of a created being, for which reason I told you what had happened to me. I told it to you as my cousin and my sworn brother, even if I suppose that you loved her first. Don't you know the old proverb of learned men? All's fair in love. On my head I swear, love is a greater law than any other that may be given to any earthly man.
Fuck off, both of you. Where does this end? I'm annoyed. Do they die or something? Please tell me they die or something. This is going on for too long. Perhaps I'll have to come back another time to the Knight's Tale, and we'll see if the simps get killed. I don't know. And since the boring knight's telling it, who thinks he's hot stuff, probably the knights bravely saved the maiden somehow, and it's all happily ever after, and isn't that wonderful? How long is this going? Yeah, I see the joke here of, oh, but I'm telling this very briefly. There's over 50 more pages, and you're still telling this brief tale. It ends on page 145. I think I don't really care for your tale, Knight. Maybe I'll look up how it ends later. I don't know. I mean, it certainly sounds nice in the Old English. Great was the strife along betwixt him tway, if that I had less of thought to say, but to the effect it happened on a day, to tell you it yours shortly as I may, a worthy duke that hight Protheus, the fellow was unto Duke Theseus, sin looks day that they were children light was come to Athens his fellow to visit, and for to play as he was wont to do. For in this world he loved no man so, and he loved them all tenderly again, so well they loved his old books saying. I mean, it sounds amazing if you're just hearing the words and not realizing that this is talking about the fucking simps being creeps and staring at a lady through a window and arguing over who loves her more. That's pretty gross, dude. There was some group project I did in honors English class where I can speak. We all filmed a short movie version of one of the tales, and I'm not sure which one it was, but I remember my group there was something involved with somebody, some kind of cheating scandal, and a May-December romance is in much younger than the guy, woman, and we were encouraged to have fun with it. And my English teacher was great, so we just got ridiculous with it, and we had a guy put a robe on and pretend it was a smoking jacket, and he's like Hugh Hefner or whatever, and we and I'm remembering more of this now. We had them get in. We had the people who were playing this couple get in the car, and then we just had people off frame shaking the car like they were doing it in the car. Just have people off frame shaking it. That's some great practical special effects for you there. And I should do some more filmmaking stuff, and I have some friends who are interested in doing movie stuff. There's some practical effects experience there. Just the couple gets in the car, and then you get off frame and shake the car back and forth so it looks like they're having sex in the car. And then there was we had some joke about acting like the dude was on pills, and we just had I took an empty pill bottle and I put some Good and Plenty's in it, so just the white ones, so it looked like pills, but it was just candy. Good times. There were some good times in high school. Most of it was shit, but there were some good times, like English class projects. And this English teacher, every year he would have, we read some of Paradise Lost. And every year, while we were reading Paradise Lost, there would be people on each side to do a court trial of God versus Satan, and he didn't rig it. It just depended on whoever made the best argument. And I think I heard that the devil's side won at least one year, because it just depended on who made their arguments best in court. And I was much more of a goody two-shoes back then than I am today. I still do like C.S. Lewis's work, but I was quoting a lot of C.S. Lewis in my court case against the devil, and I helped win our case. Yeah, it kind of was. It was kind of a religious debate team. It was pretty great. I mean, I consider myself a Christian, but I think a lot more critically about these things than a lot of people do. And I was raised Catholic, but fuck that. But let's see here. Yeah, I don't know if I want to actually read all of this, because I mean, I knew it got pretty long, but it just keeps going. Maybe we'll hear more about the Simps later, I don't know. I should write some Canterbury Tales fanfiction myself. I should see what's already out there. Maybe we'll do a bit more of this, but let's see. We could skip to another tale. I don't know if I like these night simps. Who else we got here? Oh, the Miller's Tale was probably the one that I did the film of. No, we need something dirtier here. The persistence of a simp lasts longer than any of my patience. How long is the Miller's Tales? Any shorter than the Night Simps? Though keep in mind it's only the one side of the page. Okay. The Miller's Tale is shorter. This only goes for about 30 pages. Maybe we could actually get through this one. But yeah, it seems the main joke of the Knight's Tale is he says over and over again, oh, but I'm not going to tell that part. I'm just being brief here, but it's over 100 pages. I think that's the main joke there. I think I get it. I think I got the main point of the humor of that one. I think we can skip ahead. Okay. So, what more flute music can we do here? I wanted to add more tags, because obviously I'm not doing music the entire time, but it's not like there's a category for reading aloud. There probably are other people who do it. Oh, what I should do sometime is read some choose your own adventure type stuff. Or some of those old Goosebump books. I mean, obviously that's copyrighted, but if I'm not uploading it to YouTube or whatever, and I've been wanting to try some stuff like that, like have people, when I can get some people to be in the chat more often, have people vote on what we should pick in a choose your own adventure book. I have been using the art tag for when I do art streams, like when I made the picture in the background there, but I don't know if there's literature. I'm still getting used to Twitch. There must be other people who read things, but I mainly watch people playing games, so I know that there are people who do art streams, but I haven't actually watched that many myself yet, other than I have artist friends, and I've watched some of their stuff. Anyway, let's make sure our fluid is still properly warmed up, if you know what I mean. And
Let's make sure our fingers are placed properly, if you know what I mean, as we blow through the flute to warm it up. You know, gotta make sure of these things. I know it looks crazy, but that is actually a tip I read, that if you get some of the squeaking, it's because the metal, if it's cold, it doesn't play as well. So it's good to just warm it up with your breath some first without making a horrible squeaky noise. It's either this way or cover that up in this way. Though that makes a little bit of a whistly noise. Those higher notes are a bit tougher. To get to the next octave, it's the same, but you blow harder, and it can be a little tricky to get that right. Apologies to your eardrums. That was just making stuff up. It made me want to play more just improvised stuff on the flute by running around in Animal Crossing New Horizons and playing the instruments. It inspired me to just improvise more on the real whistle. Yeah, because it's pretty. It was really simple for me to learn, and then once you get the basics down, if you have a bit of an ear for music, and I grew up with being in band and choir and all that, so I grew up with some musical training, and if you have some of that, it's pretty simple to. I know not everybody has improvisational skills, and I'm actually kind of the opposite of a lot of people who can't improvise, but they're really good at like sight reading and stuff. I'm kind of the opposite, and I can't really just look at something and play it. I can't do that, but I can sound things out and make things up. It takes practice, obviously, but so let's just mess around for a bit, and there's other things that I have figured out, though. Again, it's been a while, and like I think it is important for people to see that yeah, you're gonna make mistakes if you're still learning something, and if you see somebody who's had years and years of practice at an instrument, and obviously they make it look easy, but you didn't see everything it took for them to get to that point. So I've wondered about, is it worth it to, or embarrassing or whatever, to just be practicing and not be that good with people seeing it. But I think it's a good thing for people to see that, and I want my Twitch stream to be mostly about casually kind of hanging out with people, so I think it's a good thing to be like, I am getting better at this, but I'm gonna make some mistakes as part of learning anything musically, or learning anything whatsoever, really. Yes, the journey. So let's see. It is a D whistle. That means you start with a note of D, and then you just go up, so it's so much simpler for me to learn it. So we've got D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And if you cover half of a hold, that's how you get a sharp or a flat, basically. I just kind of mess around with stuff. That's how I learn things best. Squeaks, they happen with learning a wind instrument. I haven't done the next part as much as the intro. I can hear it in my head. I'm really good at memorizing the sound of it, but teaching myself to play it takes longer, even though I can sound it out. I can hear the next part so clearly. I've listened to it so many times. Like do 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 do. Haven't quite figured that out as much. Thank you for the clapping. Yeah, and it is hard to translate hearing it or envisioning it for a picture into actually making it look or sounds that way. So it can be frustrating. But then once you figure something out, like I play piano a little bit too, and I've never gotten amazing at it, but there's still some pieces that I've practiced them so often, it's just muscle memory, like when you learn to type, you don't have to think about it anymore. You have to practice enough time, so that's where you get to with a piece. Improvising's different, but it's a lot of an intuitive thing with improvising. Of once you just have experience with music for so many years, it just kind of seeps into your mind. Let's see here. Running out of the old water goblet. You don't want music to seep into your soul so you can improvise. I guess seep is kind of a strange word. You get what I meant. Let the music seep into your soul. Let's see. If we're starting with D, got D, E, F, G, A, B. So C's at the top. Ouch. Kind of forgot you have to blow a little hard for that. I'm well aware of all of the dirty things you can say about all of this. Let's see. Little Zelda's lullaby for you. Are you sleepy now? I guess if you were sleepy, the accidental squeak in the middle woke you up. Sorry, Zelda, I woke you up in the middle. not supposed to be sleeping, huh? I should be casting some Inspire Courage instead. I'm not sure what that would sound like, though. Hmm. I need to get myself some more water in a bit. Yes, BRB, actually, while I obtain myself a beverage. And actually, I could use a snack too. I think I'll go back to some reading in between snacking. So it's gonna become partially a mukbang here while I eat peanut butter pretzels, but oh well, they're a delicious snack. BRB while I get water and pretzels.
have returned with my pretzels of peanut butter.
If you could vitamin fortify these like you do with pet food and make sure that it was a complete diet, I would be okay with that. That would be my meals. I would just eat pretzel nuggets. I would be okay with this. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I guess that's it. I just love pretzels. I'm gonna sit there and eat pretzels all day. Pretzel nuggets, the best. Oh, I've got my tin whistle holster here. It's got a belt loop. Not many occasions to use it other than the Renaissance Fair, but, you know, cool thing to have. Oh no, she's packing a flute. We should find some music or something while I'm eating pretzels. I don't know. I have just Googled Canterbury Tales fanfiction, and I have found results on fanfiction.net. There's over 35 results, folks. I think we have to investigate this. I think this must be investigated immediately. Canterbury Tales fanfiction. I think I'm about to read some of this in a dramatic fashion. Some people here say they wrote this for an advanced British literature class, and I don't want it to actually be good. I want it to be terrible so I can laugh. Oh, this could be good. An abridged retelling of Chaucer's Knight's Tale from Canterbury Tales. Two silly knights battle over a woman who doesn't know they exist, with a happy ending for all concerned, especially her.
less than 1,000 words. Okay, I think I'm gonna like this. Less than 1,000 words. Author's note: this poem is a reshaping of Chaucer's Knight's Tale and was written in response to having to read it back in college. Being female, what struck me most was the position of the unfortunate woman to have inspired the obsession of these two idiot knights. Never even knowing who they are, she ends up being a prize to whoever wins. There's very little of chivalry or courtly love in this tale, and to boot, I found it dead boring to read, though still managed to raise my ire. In any event, this poem was a result composed in a flash of irritation. It's meant to be a parody, and I hope it's amusing. Let's do this. I am intrigued. Less than 1,000 words. Summarized new ending version of somebody also irritated by the Simp Knights. Let's go. There's a link if you want to read along. 'Twas in the days of once upon a time, when knights did contend for their ladies fine, and love at first sight was the rule, not the exception, and damsels waited with passive receptions, that two knights did fight for the love of a lady so fair, and stained the earth with their blood so rare. But in order to tell this tale aright, I must return to the start of their plight. These two lords, Algy the foolhardy and Pally the unrattled, were on the losing side of a hefty battle. Nigh unto death, captured by the foe, into a dungeon they were thrown. No hope of ransom lay before them, and so they passed the time in boredom, until that terrible fateful day, when the damsel chanced into their way. Emmy by name, the damsel little knew that her walk in the garden would start such a brew. Pardon me, getting peanut butter out of my teeth. Tonight on Masterpiece Theater. Wait a second, I've got peanut butter in my teeth. Such very drama, such professional. For Pally did glance from his dungeon keep, and what he saw felled him in a heap. A sigh so great did fall from his lips, that Algy was afraid that his mind had slipped. But Pally did describe a vision divine, that intoxicated him more than a barrel of wine. Then Algy glanced out to see Emmy the fair, and gasped as if he were desperate for air. With a green-tinged eye did Pally turn to, and said, "What on earth bothers you?" Algy did cry of that woman so true, that his heart had stolen clear out of the blue. Then Pally in anger did let out a yell, and said, "Why, you traitorous blighter, get thee to hell! She's mine, I tell you, I saw her first, and if you think you can have her, then you are thrice cursed." Then Algy did turn to calmly reply, "Why, you thick-headed beggar, that's a blooming lie. Sure you glanced out the window of vision to see, but it was I who first noted the earthly reality. In any case, you old toad, whatever you may think, love's a wine which anyone may drink. Besides, you dodge your victorious strife. In case you've forgotten, we're in here for life, so it's not bloody likely when all's told that she'll be for either of us at the end of the road. No matter, you blackguard and traitor in arms, just keep loving her and I'll rend you some harm. If that's how you like it," Algy did say, "then I'll combat any night or day." So they did struggle in their cell so dim, until the jailers did complain of the din. Then their conqueror, annoyed by their strife, kicked Algy out at the point of a knife, and angrily said, "If I ever see you again, I'll have your head on a platter well doused with gin." So Algy, all mournful, into the night did ride, all the while thinking he might as well have died. Pally did sit in his cell in despair, kind of half wishing his friend were still there. Each envied the other's lot, and sat about and mourned a lot. Then one day Algy had enough, and decided to go back and escape his rut. Besides, he was lank and thin as a deer, and figured he might meet his lady dear. So he rode back and went through the paces, and managed to get in the conqueror's good graces. Meanwhile Pally had escaped for the wide open spaces, and planned to return for the lady's good graces. Until by coincidence so unruly, these two met in the forest, truly, hurling invectives Viciously on both sides, they did declare that someone would die. Then as the blood began to flow, the conqueror showed up and wanted a better show. Since the lady had not known of the knight's little fancies, they were getting nowhere with their inelegant dancing. So the conqueror decreed a battle for the day, in which the winner would have full sway. The lady heard and liked it not, and that's when she began to plot. The knights did gather in their bright array, and on the tourney field began their sword play. The battle was fierce, the blood was deep, and when the dust cleared, they were in a heap. And the winner was declared, and he turned to claim the lady fair. Yet his wounds were too much, and he fainted away, too weak for a husband, so Pally claimed the day. But when he turned to claim his lady's hand, lo, it became clear she had fled from the land. It seemed she'd been married for long on the sly. Also she and her husband had decided to fly. He being a jester and no fighter at heart, they thought it best to make a fresh start. So Pally and Algy, all bruised and forlorn, did find themselves by love forsaken and forsworn. So they decided to give up violent sword play, and bought a tavern where they are to this day. I like it. Indeed. They decided to make up and run a tavern, and the lady ran off with the jester. And the who is it who runs off with the spoon? It's not the cat, is it? Is it the cat runs off with the spoon? I don't know. Somebody runs off with the spoon. The cat's in the moon. Somebody else runs off with the spoon. I don't remember. Who ran away with the spoon? I don't remember. Did the dog run away with the spoon? I don't know. Oh, under the abridged A Tale of Two Nights I just read, there's a poem somebody made for their English class where they had to make their own pilgrims. And these pilgrims are traveling from Crazy Louie's pawn shop to Las Vegas. Only 193 words. Let's look this one over. Yeah, I already read it and it's not very good. Sorry if you were excited. You may read it if you wish, but I didn't think it was very good. There's the link. Finding Nemo and Canterbury Tales crossover. I have to look. I have to see this. How? Why? I think I've discovered my new favorite genre of poem. Canterbury Tales parodies. Okay, now let us read the Canterbury Tales parody fanfiction, Nemo of the Sea. An orange clownfish there was, with his large eye brown and as glass, and a smile as wide as a wagon. He was born with unwounded fin. Nemo, as he was called, wanted no more than that to be free, to go where he will, and that will its skull, which he loved at best, he was stole out to swim into open water. This fish was caught as his father looked on. Nemo, then in a tank fish, tried with great courage to eschew the tanker while it was caught shark bait. Brave he was, trying to change his fate. Risking life and limb, Nemo wanted no more than to save his friends and foo. Unscaped did he without in dread. As you can see, he was a worthy lad, and his father loved him best of all, though he was the only child left to call. I think I ended up going a bit more Scottish than English there, but it was fun anyway. Reading it was fun, even though it was kinda stupid. Oh no, we've got there are 30 results on Archive of Our Own. What am I doing with my life? 1 to 30 works in Canterbury Tales. Well, 1 to 20 of 30 works in Canterbury Tales fanfiction on Archive of Our Own. Oh god. The first one is titled Degradation Cake. I didn't even have any alcohol for this. What? Oh god. I thought the Canterbury Tales was originally filthy. And this first story, that's a Canterbury Tales story fanfiction on Archive of Our Own. It says, okay, let me read the tags here dramatically. Squire, Summoner, Clerk, Wife of Bath, Canterbury Tales, Prioress, Franklin, Knight, Parson, he's some Canterbury Tales characters, Chaplain, Nun's Priest, Plowman, the Host, Geoffrey Chaucer himself, apparently. Excuse me. Original female characters, Free Use, Degradation Kink, Gangbang, Porn with Plot, Iambic Pentameter. Wait, go back a few there. Degradation Kink is what I said. And then after that, and Free Use is also a kink thing. Then this list here: Free Use, Degradation Kink, Gangbang, Porn with Plot, Iambic Pentameter. Degradation Iambic Pentameter. That's my fetish right there. Oh yeah, degrade me in Iambic Pentameter. Well, with how filthy this sounds, I don't want to get, like, in trouble with Twitch, but I'm definitely putting the link right here, so you can look it up. The internet is a glorious place. So there's a tag on Archive of Our Own: sexualization of academic literature. That's my fetish. That I found it. My fetish. Sexualization of academic literature. It's already sexual. You're just making it more sexual. A story where it's the Canterbury Tales but starring the Beatles. A crossover where they somehow mixed Canterbury Tales with Pride and Prejudice, Hamlet, and Beowulf. Well, I mean, there is that part in Catcher in the Rye where he gets a prostitute but is just awkward and he doesn't do anything. I did have to read that one. I would probably appreciate it more now than I did then. I don't think they let you read that book at the appropriate age. I think if I had read it when I was a little bit older, I would have appreciated it more. Catcher in the Rye. Tags on a Canterbury Tales fanfiction: bad poetry, class project, yes, freeform, why did I do this, I went brain dead. Lovely tags, beautiful. What has science wrought? The internet is amazing. Angst and fluff and smut, all as one tag. Sapphic, as in lesbians, slow burn. I think these probably get too dirty for me to read on stream, but I'm gonna look this up later. I have a new hobby. Academic sexualization of academic literature. That's my new fetish there. My fetish. Sexualization of academic literature. There's so much. This one is called The Chickens Are Restless. I'm somewhat intrigued. Oh, we have ratings on the side here. That first one is rated explicit. I would think so with those tags. I don't think I can get away with that on Twitch. My apologies. If you really wanted to hear about the gangbang degradation kink Canterbury Tales version, I don't think Twitch will let me do that. You can read it for yourself later. The internet is wonderful. The internet is glorious. Grendel's demonic meat hall. What even is the internet? Old Spice Chaucer. I like this tag somebody threw on. My liberal arts education, let me show you it. I like that. The Locksmith's Tale, rated mature. Kink Bingo, chastity devices. I guess that's where the locksmith comes in. The internet is very strange. Such a strange place. Well, I have a new hobby, folks. I'm gonna have to look into this later. Okay, there's some strange fan fiction out there. What's this article here? This is some kind of academic study? The fanfiction reader folk tales for the digital age. Interesting. Oh, this is a book apparently. Interesting. I did get some of my start in writing in fan fiction, so I do have a fondness for it, though it gets very strange sometimes. That's pretty interesting. Academic article about fan fiction. This is a book, apparently. Well, sorry about the not exactly safe for work conversation. I suppose you have headphones or whatever. And don't let anybody know that you're looking up sexualization of academic literature. Oh my. So, now what? Okay. Well, since the Miller's Tale is way shorter than the Knight's Tale, I should be able to actually get through it. If I was just reading silently, I could get through pretty quick, but the point here is to
try and entertain people. I hope you've been entertained by this very academic discussion of the sexualization of academic literature. A strictly academic discussion. Yeah, I suppose it's fine if you're remote working. The pandemic sucks, but honestly, I'm glad it's making remote working a mainstream thing, because this is something that needed to happen. You don't need to sit in an office and while time away to get your work done. Well, I'm glad you'll be as entertained. Here begins the Miller's Tale. Once upon a time there lived at Oxford a rich churl who boarded paying guests. He was a carpenter by trade. At his house lived a poor scholar who had completed part of his arts course, but his whole imagination was directed to learning astrology. He knew a number of propositions by which to make a decision in astrological analyses, and certain hours if you asked him. When you would have drought or else showers, or if you asked him what should come of all sorts of things. I can't mention all of them. This clerk was named Pleasant Nicholas. He knew all about secret love and pleasurable consolations. Hint, hint. And besides, he was sly and very discreet, and looked as meek as a maiden. In that boarding house he had a room, alone, without further company, and nicely decked with fragrant herbs, and he himself was as sweet and clean as a root of licorice or any ginger. His almagest, and books large and small, his astrolabe proper to his art, and his counters for arithmetic lay neatly separated on shelves set at the head of his bed. His storage chest was covered with a red woolen cloth. At the top there lay a pretty psaltery on which by night he made melody so sweetly that all the room rang with it. He sang Angelus and Virginum, and after that he sang the king's tune. People often blessed his merry voice, and thus the sweet clerk spent his time, depending upon his friend's support and his income. This carpenter had recently married a wife whom he loved more than his life. She was 18 years of age. He was jealous and kept her on a short leash, for she was wild and young, and he was old, and judged himself near to being a cuckold. He did not know, for his understanding was crude, Cato saying that a man should marry someone like himself. People should wed according to their condition, for youth and age are often at odds, but since he had fallen into the trap, he had to endure his trouble like other people. This young wife was lovely. Her body was as graceful and slim as a weasel's. She wore a sash threaded with silk, and around her loins a flared apron white as morning fresh milk. Her smock was white and embroidered with black silk around the collar, inside and outside, front and back. The ribbons of her cap matched her collar, and her broad silk headband sat well back from her face. And certainly she had a wanton eye. Her eyebrows were closely plucked, and they arched gracefully, and were black as a sloe. She was more of a treat to look at than a pear tree just come into bloom, and she was softer to touch than the wool of a sheep. At her waist hung a leather purse, tasseled with silk and beaded in bright metal. In all this world, if you search up and down, you can find no man clever enough to imagine so gay a poppet or such a wench. The brilliance of her colouring was better than the gleam of a gold noble newly minted in the Tower of London. As for her singing, it was as clear and lively as the notes of a barn swallow. Besides all this, she could gamble and play like any kid or calf following his mother. I'm not sure if that's the best compliment, but I suppose you mean it to be one. Her mouth was as sweet as drinks made from honey, or as a hoard of apples laid away in hay or heather. She was skittish as a colt, tall as a mast, and straight as an arrow. On her low collar she wore a brooch as broad as the boss of a buckler, whose shoes were laced far up her legs. She was a morning glory. She was a daisy, fit for any lord to lay in his bed, or yet for any good yeoman to marry. Now, sir, and again, sir, the case so befell that one day this Pleasant Nicholas happened to flirt and play with this young wife while her husband was at Osney. These clerks are very subtle and sly, and privily he grabbed her where he shouldn't, and said, "Unless I have my will of you, sweetheart, I'm sure to die for suppressed love." And he held her hard by the hips and said, "Sweetheart, love me right away, or I'll die, so God help me.
She jumped like a colt imprisoned in a shoeing frame and twisted her head away hard and said, "I want to kiss you, on my faith. Why, let be," she said. "Let be, Nicholas, or I'll cry help, and alas! Take away your hands. Where are your manners?" This Nicholas started begging for mercy and spoke so prettily and pushed himself so hard that she finally granted him her love and made her oath by St. Thomas a Becket that she would be his to command when she could see her opportunity. "My husband is so filled with jealousy that unless you are on guard and keep it a secret, I know for sure that I'm as good as dead," she said. "You must be very discreet in this matter." "No, don't bother about that," said Nicholas. "A clerk would certainly have spent his time poorly if he couldn't fool a carpenter." And thus they agreed and promised to look out for an occasion, as I told before. When Nicholas had accomplished all this, and patted her thoroughly about the loins, he kissed her sweetly, and took his psaltery and played it hard and made music. Then it happened... He played something hard and made some music, huh? Then it happened that this good wife went to the parish church on a holy day to perform Christ's own works. Her forehead shone as bright as day, had been washed so thoroughly when she left her work. Is that a compliment? A shiny forehead? I must be amazingly beautiful then. Now there was a parish clerk of that church who was called Absalom. His hair was curly and shone like gold and spread out like a big wide fan. The pretty parting of his hair lay straight and even. His complexion was red, his eyes as grey as a goose. He went very elegantly in red hose, with St. Paul's window tooled into his shoes. He was dressed very properly and with a close fit in a light blue tunic. Its laces were set in neatly and close together. In addition, he had a handsome surplice as white as a blossom on the bough. He was a merry lad, God help me. He well knew how to let blood, to clip hair, and to shave, and how to draw up a charter of land or a release. He could trip and dance 20 different ways, according to the then manner of Oxford, and prance to and fro on his legs, and play song tunes on a small fiddle. He sometimes sang the high treble loudly, and he could play as well on his guitar. There wasn't a beer house or tavern in the whole town that he didn't visit with his entertainment, if there was any gay barmaid there. But to tell the truth, he was a little squeamish about farting and prim in his speech. Okay. Well, he really knows how to dance, and he likes trying to get the ladies, but he's a bit squeamish about farts. Alright then. A little too prim and proper. This Absalom, who was lively and playful, went with a censer on the holy day, censing the wives of the parish zealously, and many a loving look he cast upon them, particularly on the carpenter's wife. Looking at her seemed a merry life to him. She was so neat and sweet and appetizing. I dare say that if she had been a mouse and he a cat, he would have grabbed her right away. That's gross. Jolly Absalom, this parish clerk, had such love longing in his heart that he accepted no offering from any wife. He said that he wouldn't for the sake of his manners. So he's a prude, you're saying? He likes looking, but he's too much of a prude to do anything, huh? When night came, the moon shone brightly, and Absalom took his guitar, for he planned to stay up, as lovers do. Forth he went, lusty and amorous, until he came to the carpenter's house, a little after cockcrow, and took his stand by a hinged window on the carpenter's wall. He sang in his refined, dainty voice, "Now, dear lady, if it be your will, I pray you to take pity on me," nicely in tune with his playing. The carpenter woke up and heard him sing, and spoke to his wife, saying, "Why, Alison, don't you hear Absalom singing that way below our chamber wall?" And she thereupon answered her husband, "Yes, God knows, John, I hear every bit of it." So things went on. What do you want better than good enough? From day to day this pretty Absalom wooed her until he was woebegone. He stayed awake all night and all day. He combed his wide-spreading locks and made himself look pretty. He wooed her by go-betweens and proxy, and swore he would be her own page. He sang quaveringly like a nightingale. He sent her sweetened wine, mead, spiced ale, and pastries piping hot out of the coals. And since she was a townswoman, he offered bribes. Like the drinks and the cakes weren't bribes already. And parenthetical, since she was a townswoman, he offered bribes. At least he's honest in calling it what it is. For some will be won with riches, some with blows, and some with kindness. Once, to show his agility and skill, he played Herod on a high scaffold, but what use was anything to him in this case? She loved pleasant Nicholas so much that Absalom should go whistle to the wind. He earned nothing but scorn for his labours. Thus she made a monkey of Absalom, and turned all his seriousness into a joke. There's no doubt that this proverb is very true. Men say just this: always the nearby sly one makes the distant dear one to be hated. Though Absalom may be raging and furious because he was far from her sight, thus nearby Nicholas stood in his light. Now play your part well, you pleasant Nicholas, for Absalom may wail and sing alas. And so it happened on a Saturday that this carpenter had gone to Osney. And pleasant Nicholas and Alison agreed to this effect, that Nicholas should invent himself a trick to fool this simple-minded, jealous husband. And if the game went right, she would sleep in his arms all night, though this was his desire and hers too. Right away, without another word, Nicholas wouldn't stand for further tarrying, but very quietly carried to his room both food and drink for a day or two, and told her to say to her husband, if he asked for Nicholas, that she didn't know where he was, that she hadn't laid eyes on him all that day, and that she imagined he was sick, for her maid couldn't rouse him, no matter how she shouted. He wouldn't answer, no matter what happened. It followed that all that Saturday and until sundown on Sunday, Nicholas stayed quiet in his room, and ate and slept, or did whatever he wanted. This foolish carpenter was astonished at Nicholas, and wondered what ailed him. He said, "By St. Thomas, I'm afraid that things aren't right with Nicholas. God forbid that he should die suddenly. This world now is very ticklish in truth. I saw a corpse being borne to church today, and just last Monday I saw the man going about his business. Go up," he said then to his servant, "call at his door, and knock with a stone, see how matters stand, and tell me straight out." The servant went up sturdily, and as he stood at the chamber door, he shouted and knocked like mad. "Hey now, what are you doing, Master Nicholas? How can you sleep all day long?" But all for nothing. He heard not a word. He found a hole low down on one of the boards where the cat was accustomed to creep in, and he looked far in there. At last he had a sight of him. Nicholas sat there, continually gaping up in the air, as though he were gazing at the new moon. The servant went down and soon told his master in what state he had seen this man. The carpenter set to crossing himself and said, "Help us, Saint Frideswide. Our man little knows what is going to happen to him. This man has fallen with his astronomy into some madness or fit. I always thought it would be this way. Men shouldn't pry into the secret things of God. Yea, ever blessed be an unschooled man who knows nothing but his creed." Another clerk fared the same way with astronomy. I think that's astronomy. He walked in the fields to pry upon the stars and find out what was to occur, until he fell into a bit of fertilizer. He didn't see that. And yet, by St. Thomas, I sorely pity pleasant Nicholas. He shall be scolded for his studying, if I can do it. By Jesus, heaven's king, get me a staff so that I can pry underneath while you rob and heave up the door. He shall come out of his studying, I'll bet. And he began to apply himself to the chamber door. His servant was a strong fellow for the purpose, and he heaved it up at once by the hasp. The door then fell on the floor. Nicholas continued to sit as still as stone, and kept gaping up in the air. The carpenter thought that Nicholas was in a fit, and seized him strongly by the shoulders, and shook him hard, crying roughly, "What, Nicholas, what? Look down, awake, and think on Christ's passion. I sign you with the cross against elves and evil creatures." Then he immediately said the night charm toward the four quarters of the house, and on the threshold of the outside door. "Jesus Christ and Saint Benedict, bless this house against every wicked creature. Let the white paternoster defend us by night. Where did you go, St. Peter's sister?" At last pleasant Nicholas began to sigh sorely, and said, "Alas, shall all this world now be lost again?" The carpenter answered, "What are you saying? How now? Think on God, as we do, we men that work." Nicholas answered, "Bring me something to drink, and afterwards I want to speak in private of a certain thing that concerns you and me. I won't tell it to another man for sure." The carpenter went down and came up again, bringing a generous quart of strong ale, and when each of them had drunk his share, Nicholas shut his door tight, and sat the carpenter down beside him. He said, "John, my beloved and esteemed host, you shall swear to me here on your word of honor that you will not betray this secret to any creature, for it is Christ's secret that I am going to utter, and if you tell it to anyone, you are lost, because for doing so you shall suffer this vengeance. If you betray me, you shall go mad." "No, Christ forbid it for the sake of his holy blood," said the simple man. "I am no blabber. No, though I say it myself, I don't like to gossip. Say what you will, I shall never tell it to child or wife, by him who hath hell." "Now, John," said Nicholas, "I won't lie. I have discovered in my astrology, as I was looking at the bright moon, that on Monday next When a quarter of the night is still to go, there shall fall a rain so wild and furious that Noah's flood was never half so great. In less than an hour, he said, this world shall be drowned, so hideous will be the downpour. Thus all mankind shall drown and lose their lives. The carpenter answered, Alas, my wife, shall she drown? Alas, my Alison. For his sorrow at this he almost collapsed, and said, Is there no remedy in this matter? Why, yes, indeed, by God, said pleasant Nicholas. If you will act according to learning and advice, you may not act according to your own idea, for thus says Solomon, who was very truthful, Do everything according to advice, and you will not be sorry. And if you will act on good advice, I promise that without master's sail, I shall yet save her, and you and myself. Have you heard how Noah was saved when our Lord had forewarned him that all the world should be lost by water? Certainly, said the carpenter, long ago. Haven't you heard also, said Nicholas, of the anxiety of Noah and his companions until he could get his wife on board? I'll bet that time he would rather have had her have a ship to herself than keep all his fine black weathers. And do you know what's best to do for all this? This requires haste, and about an urgent matter you mayn't preach or make delay. Go promptly, and bring right into this inn a kneading trough, or else a shallow tub, for each of us, but be sure they are large ones, in which we can float as in a ship. And have in them victuals enough for a day only, fie on the rest. The water shall diminish and go away about 9 in the morning of the next day. But Robin, your servant, may not know of this, and I mayn't save Jill, your maid, either. Don't ask why, for even if you do, I won't reveal God's private affairs. It is enough for you, unless you are mad, to have as great grace as Noah had. I shall indeed save your wife beyond a doubt. Now go your way and hurry about your business. But when for her and yourself and me, you've got us these 3 kneading tubs, then you are to hang them up high up in the roof, so that no one will spy out our preparations. And when we've done as I have said, and have stored our victuals in them safely, and an axe too, to cut the rope into when the water comes, so that we may float, and we've broken a hole high up on the gable to the garden and over the stable, so that we can get out freely on our way when the great rain is over, then you'll float as merrily, I promise, as the white duck goes after her drake. Then I'll call out, How now, Alison? How now, John? Cheer up, the flood will go away soon. And you will say, Hail, Master Nicholas, good morning, I see you well, it's light. And then we shall be lords for all our lives of all the world, like Noah and his wife. But I caution you about one thing for sure. Be well forewarned that on that same night when we have gone on shipboard, none of us speak a word, or call, or cry out, but be in prayer, for it is God's own precious command. Your wife and you must hang far apart, so that there shall be no sin between you, any more in looking than in deed. Our arrangement has been described. Go, Godspeed. Tomorrow night, when everyone is asleep, we'll creep into our kneading tubs and sit there, waiting God's grace. Now go on your way. I have no more time to make a longer sermon of this. People speak thus, send the wise, and say nothing. You're so wise that there is no need to teach you. Go, save our lives, I beseech you. The foolish carpenter went his way. Often he said, Alas, and alack, and he told his secret to his wife. She was aware of it, and knew better than he what all this elaborate contrivance amounted to. Nevertheless, she behaved as though she would die, and said, Alas, go away immediately. Help us to escape, or we are lost, each one of us. I'm your faithful, true wedded wife. Go, dear spouse, and help to save our lives. Look what a great thing emotion is. One may die by force of imagining things, so deeply may a notion be imprinted. This foolish carpenter began to shake. He thinks in truth that he can see Noah's flood come surging like the sea to drown Alison, his honey dear. He weeps, wails, looks mournful. He sighs with many a sorry gust. He went and got himself a kneading trough, and after that 2 tubs, and secretly he sent them to his inn and hung them under the roof in privacy. What an ass both those people cucking this dude are, huh? With his own hand he made 3 ladders, on which they might climb by the rungs and uprights to the tubs hanging in the rafters, and victualled both trough and tub with bread and cheese and good ale and a jug, quite sufficient for a day. But before he installed all this array, he sent his manservant and also the girl to go to London on an errand for him. Such reed, very water. So they came up with this elaborate plan just so she can cheat on the dude. I suppose we're supposed to laugh about him, but that's just awful, these people. Anyway. On Monday, when night drew on, he shut his door without lighting any candles, and arranged everything as was supposed to be. And shortly they climbed up all three. They sat still for the time it takes to go a furlong. "Now, Paternoster, hush," said Nicholas, and "hush," said John, and "hush," said Allison. The carpenter recited his devotions and sat still, offering his prayers and waiting to see whether he might hear the rain. Wearied by his own diligence, the carpenter fell into a dead sleep, as I judged just about curfew time or a little later. He groaned painfully for the affliction of his spirit, and then he snored, for his head lay uncomfortably. Nicholas crept down from the ladder, and Allison hurried down very softly. Without more words, they went to bed where the carpenter was wont to lie. There was the revel and the harmony, and thus lay Allison and Nicholas in diligence of mirth and pleasure, until the bell of lauds began to sing, and friars began to sing in the chancel. The parish clerk, this amorous Absalom, who was always so woe-begone for love, was at Osney on Monday to have a good time with company. He chanced to ask a member of the order very secretly about John the carpenter. The man drew him apart out of the church and said, "I don't know. I haven't seen him doing anything here since Saturday. I imagine that he went for timber where our abbot sent him, for he's accustomed to go for timber and stay at the farm for a day or two. Or else he's certainly at home. I cannot truthfully say where he is." This Absalom grew frolicsome and light-hearted, and thought, "Now's the time to stay up all night, for surely I haven't seen him stirring about his door since dawn. As I may thrive, a cock could crow, I shall knock very secretly at the window that is quite low in the wall of his bedchamber. Now I'll tell Allison all my love-sickness, but still it won't fail at the very least that I'll kiss her. I shall have some kind of comfort for sure. My mouth has itched all this livelong day. That is a sign of kissing, at least. Besides, I dreamed all night that I was at a feast. Therefore, I'll go sleep for an hour or two, and then I'll stay up and amuse myself all night." Amuse myself all night, eh? When the first cock had crowed, then rose up this lusty lover Absalom, and dressed himself handsomely to perfection. But first he chewed cardamom and licorice, in order to smell sweet, before he combed his hair. He carried a sprig of clover under his tongue, for by its means he expected to be pleasing. He strolled to the carpenter's house and stood quietly under the hinged window. It reached only to his chest, it was so low, and he coughed softly with a small sound. What do you, honeycomb, sweet Allison, my fair bird, sweet cinnamon? Awake, my sweetheart, and speak to me. Little do you think of my woe, which is so great that I sweat upon the ground as I walk. It is no wonder, though I melt and sweat, I yearn as does the lamb for the teat. Indeed, sweetheart, I have such love-sickness, that my mourning is like that of the faithful turtle-dove. I may not eat any more than a girl." What? I'm not sure what I may not eat any more than a girl. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Anyway. And like the lamb for the teat, huh? Yeah, you desire her teats, alright. He desires teats. "Go away from the window, Jack fool," she said. "So help me God, it won't become kiss me. By Jesus, Absalom, I love another a lot better than you, and otherwise I'd be to blame. Go your way, or I'll throw a stone, and let me sleep in the name of 20 devils. "Alas," said Absalom, "and alack that ever true love was so ill used. Kiss me then, since it may be no better, for Jesus is love and love of me." "You go your way then," she said. "Yes, certainly, sweetheart," said Absalom. "Then get ready," she said. "I'm coming right away." And she said quietly to Nicholas, "Now keep quiet, and you shall laugh your fill." Absalom got down on his knees and said, "I am a lord in every way, for after this I expect more will be coming, your favour, beloved, and sweet bird, your mercy." She undid the window quickly. "Finish up," she said. "Come on and do it quickly, so that our neighbors won't see you." Absalom wiped his mouth very dry. The night was dark as pitch or coal, and she stuck her hole out the window, and Absalom fared neither better nor worse than with his mouse to kiss her naked arse with much relish before he knew what he was doing. Well, that's pretty funny right there. Don't care who you are. That's pretty funny right there. So she stuck her hole out the window, and Absalom fared neither better nor worse than with his mouth to kiss her naked arse with much relish before he knew what he was doing. He started back and thought that something was wrong, for he well knew that a woman doesn't have a beard. He felt something that was all rough and long-haired, and said, "Why, alas, what have I done?" Tee, she said, and slams the window shut. And Absalom went forth to start his step. Well, I don't exactly like her, but that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. You gotta hand it to her there. A beard, said pleasant Nicholas. By God's body, this goes nicely. Feckless Absalom heard it all, and he bit his lip for anger, and said to himself, I'll pay you back. Who now rubs, who wipes his lips with dust, with sand, with straw, with cloth, with chips, but Absalom, who says, alas, again and again, I'll give my soul to Satan if I wouldn't rather be revenged for this insult than have all this town, he said. Alas, he said, alas that I didn't turn aside. His hot love had grown cold and was all quenched, for from the time that he had kissed her arse, he didn't give a crest for woman's love, for he was cured of his sickness. He's not an ass man, clearly. Some people pay for that, dude. I guess it's not your thing, huh? He renounced love over and over and wept like a child that is beaten. He crossed the street softly to a smith called Master Gervais, who was shaping plowing equipment in his forge. He was busily sharpening plowshares and coulters. Absalom knocked quietly and said, Open up, Gervais, right away. What? Who are you? It's me, Absalom. How now, Absalom? Christ's cross, why do you rise so wearily, eh? Bless us. What's wrong with you? Some gay girl, God knows, has got you on the prowl this way. By St. Neot, you well know what I mean. Absalom didn't care a bean for all his joking. He replied not a word. He had more wool on his distaff than Gervais knew, and said, Dear friend, that hot coulter in the chimney there, lend it to me. I've something to do with it. I'll return it to you very soon. Gervais answered, Certainly, if it were gold or uncounted gold nobles in a bag, you should have it, as I am an honest smith. Eh, the devil, what will you do with it? Concerning that, said Absalom, let it be as it may, I'll tell you indeed tomorrow. And he grabbed the coulter by its cool handle. He stole out softly at the door and walked to the carpenter's wall. First he coughed, and then knocked on the window, just as he had done before. Alison answered, Who's there knocking so hard? It's a thief, I warrant. Why, no, he said. God, no, sweet love. I'm your Absalom, my darling. I've brought you a gold ring, he said. My mother gave it to me. God save me. It's very fine and well engraved, too. I'll give it to you if you'll kiss me. Nicholas had risen to urinate, and thought he would improve on the joke. Absalom should kiss his arse before getting off. He reached the window quickly and quietly stuck his arse out beyond the buttocks, as far back as his thigh bone. Then this clerk Absalom said, Speak, sweet bird, I don't know where you are. Nicholas then let fly a fart as strong as a thunderclap, so that Absalom was almost blinded with its force. But he was ready with his hot iron, and struck Nicholas in the middle of his arse. Off went the skin a hand's breadth on each side. The hot coulter burned his buttock so badly that he thought he would die with the pain. He began to cry out as if he were mad. Help! Water! Help! For God's hot! The carpenter started out of his slumber and heard someone crying water like mad, and he thought, Alas, now no else flood is coming. He sat up without another word and hacked the rope into with his axe, and down went all. He didn't find time to sell either bread or ale before he hit the flooring at ground level, and there he lay in a faint. Alison and Nicholas jumped up and cried, Alas, and help, in the street. The neighbors high and low ran in to gape at this man, who still lay in a faint, pale and wan, for he had broken his arm at the fall. But he had to take the blame for his own mishap, for when he spoke he was soon borne down by pleasant Nicholas and Alison. They told everyone that he was mad. He was so afraid of Noel's flood through hallucination that in his folly he had bought himself 3 kneading tubs and had hanged them up under the roof, and that he had asked them for God's love to sit under the roof for company's sake. The people set to laughing at his delusion. They peered and gaped up at the roof and turned all his misfortune into a joke, for whatever the carpenter said and answered did no good. No one listened to his explanation. He was so sworn down with strong avowals that he was considered mad through all the town. For every clerk immediately stuck with the other's story. They said, The man is mad, dear brother, and laughed, and everyone laughed at this fuss. Thus plummed was the carpenter's wife in spite of all his guard and jealousy, and Absalom has kissed her lower eye, and Nicholas is scalded in the bum. This tale is done, and God save all the company. I like that one. I like that. And at least the guy she was cheating on also got his ass burnt. Indeed. Medieval fart jokes. Didst thou enjoy the medieval fart jokes? I know I didst enjoy the fart humor. Indeed. Medieval fart jokes. It's a much better tale than the two simps being creeps staring at the lady through the window. Do you have any others that are also a little short in here? So, I planned to go till 4. That was a lot more talking than I am wont to do upon these streams on the internet. Indeed. I think that is quite enough reading aloud for the time being. Indeed. Let's see. What else shall I do for a bit? Whatever shall I do? We can see what Wikipedia has to say about the Canterbury Tales for some real abridged versions here. A collection of 24 stories that runs to over 17,000 lines, written in Middle English by Geoffrey Chaucer between 1387 and 1400. Generally thought to have been incomplete, some 30 pilgrims are introduced in the prologue. According to the prologue, the intention was to write 4 stories from the perspective of each pilgrim, 2 each on the way to and from their ultimate destination. Although perhaps incomplete, the Canterbury Tales is revered as one of the most important works in English literature and is also open to a wide range of interpretations. I've taken a lot of English classes. I'm sure people figure out strange ways to interpret that, even if it's about fart jokes. Well, clearly, the fart symbolized. I think he just wanted to tell fart jokes. And I think that's all it's about, really. Apparently there's an alternative ordering. Oh, I thought that said an alternative ending for a second. I was more excited about that possibility. So these were different manuscript fragments, so I'm not entirely sure what order they were supposed to go in. borrowed portions from other tales. Describes not the tales to be told, but the people who will tell them, making it clear the structure will depend on the characters rather than a general theme or moral. Character-driven work. That's my fetish. Character-driven stories. Oh yeah, character-driven literature. That's the best. Character development. Juicy. At times, the same word will mean entirely different things between classes. The word pity, P-I-T-E-E, for example, is a noble concept to the upper classes, while in The Merchant's Tale it refers to sexual intercourse. Taking pity on somebody, huh? Two characters, the partner and the summoner, whose roles apply the church's secular power, are both portrayed as deeply corrupt, greedy, and abusive. Criticisms of corrupt society. My fetish. Yeah, so it's not just about fart jokes. It's also about social commentary, social commentary with fart jokes, that's something I can definitely get behind. It's difficult to determine who the audience of the tales was. He was a courtier, leading some to believe... Courtier, I guess? I guess it's a French term. It's probably like courtier. Leading some to believe that he was mainly a court poet. Literary adaptations. There's a science fiction version? Hyperions, based on an extraplanetary group of pilgrims? Huh, I didn't know that. I've heard of that book. I didn't know it was somewhat Canterbury Tales inspired. Huh. Oh, that sounds interesting. Canadian author Angie Abdu translates the Canterbury Tales to a cross-section of people, all snow sports enthusiasts, but from different social backgrounds, converging on a remote backcountry ski cabin in British Columbia in the 2011 novel The Canterbury Trail. I kind of want to read this now. A Canadian Canterbury Tales about snow sports enthusiasts. That sounds kind of amazing. I might need to read this. The Canterbury Trail. I might need to add this to my ever-expanding to-read list. That sounds amazing. Adaptations and homages. I figured A Knight's Tale, the movie, was somewhat inspired by The Knight's Tale. I have seen that. I know. Well, it's more interesting than the Knight's Tale in the Canterbury Tales. So seems like the main point was dude's boring. So yeah. Anyway. I'm on a pilgrimage, eh? A little Wikipedia copy paste here. So, it's an ironic and critical portrait of English society at the time, and particularly of the church. Though I have a very odd sense of humor, obviously, but I kind of want to see how academics try to talk seriously about the social implications of fart jokes. I kind of want to see video of them with a straight face discussing the social implications of fart jokes. This is very much my humor there. That sounds like a Python sketch there. Just keeping a straight face at an academic conference discussing social implications of fart jokes. Yes, that must be a kink right there. Social implications of fart jokes, along with the sexualization of academic literature. The social implications of historical fart jokes. People act like this kind of stuff is high class for some reason. Things like Shakespeare were for the common people. And people think it's all fancy just because. And if I don't understand what they're saying, it must be fancy. No, that's not how that works. It's just fancy fart jokes and sex jokes. That's pretty much Shakespeare for you. Fancy fart jokes and innuendo and puns. Sorry if you thought it was high class for some reason. I mean, I enjoy medieval fart jokes, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm better than anybody because I understand medieval fart jokes. Well, thanks for coming to my TED Talk, The Social Implications of Medieval Fart Jokes and the Sexualization of Academic Literature. Do we have any questions from the audience? I've been wanting to do YouTube videos about this sort of thing for a long time, but I think the interaction potential of Twitch makes it more interesting for me to do. 'Cause I have a lot of thoughts about books, but I thought about doing a podcast or some videos or something, but it kind of started and didn't finish a lot of things. But if this was entertaining, I can do some more of such things. I've been putting Wednesdays as art stream days, and I also tried a bit of like learning time streams of like going on Duolingo and that sort of thing. No main focus here, though. Fairly new to Twitch, but I'm figuring out what kind of format I'm doing. Yeah, I love Overly Sarcastic Productions, or one. I love the YouTube channel. Yeah, I would like to do that sort of thing. I love that kind of stuff. Maybe after I've done some more of this stuff on Twitch and figured out my style of stuff more, maybe I'll do some. And plus, I've figured out it's super easy to upload your saved Twitch broadcast videos to YouTube. I stuck some on there, not that anybody really bothered watching them yet, but I shall eventually build up that content, that online content. Online content creator. I watch a lot of YouTube and Twitch, and that term crops up so often anymore, and it's such an odd term to me. Content creator. I don't know. What a strange world we live in. I create content. Sounds like corporate lingo bullshit. You can't just say I make things and these are the specific things I make. I create content. Well, doesn't everybody? And sometimes while you're creating your content on Twitch, you have to take a break so you can create some content in the bathroom. Pardon me, I gotta go create some content over there. Yeah, I get what the point of it is. It's just kind of an odd term to me for some reason. I don't know. Just, I don't know, because I'm such a word nerd, I guess. I notice when things slowly slide into common usage, and it takes a while to get used to it. I realized the slow rise of content creator being a term. And just, I don't know if I like it. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I'm not sure where I'm going with this anymore. I meant to do it a bit more reading tales, though. I definitely love dramatically reading weird fanfiction out loud. I should make that a thing on here. What's your channel about? I don't know, whatever the heck I feel like doing. Having the schedule for the week does help, though. It's like, I'm not very good at time management, so it's good to schedule something that's like, okay, I'm supposed to do this at a certain time. And I can probably stick with the play through the same game for a while, like I've been doing with Spiritfarer. Yeah, I don't know. Who even is Ted? When's he gonna speak? When's he gonna talk? I don't know. I don't know when Ted will talk. Anyway. Yeah, I wasn't sure how this would go. I was kind of felt awkward about just playing some music and reading, but I think it turned out okay. Well, I mean, my very existence is awkward, so I'm not gonna get over that really, but I wasn't sure how this would work out, and I suppose it worked out okay. Awkward Girl Rambles, more at 11. Anyway, I meant to go for about 3 hours, and I suppose I'm about done for now, but thanks for hanging out. Yet I have been starting to get more comfortable with it as I've done a handful of YouTube videos, and as I've done some more Twitch streams. Let's see if there's somebody we can raid, even though I think the second watcher is just myself. But let's go. I'm not sure what Stream Raiders is, but Quiet Quit here has helped me out by stopping by my stream some to get those numbers up, and he's fairly new too. He does some like Minecraft streams, and I've mainly looked at the Minecraft ones so far, but anyway, I suppose I'll see if the raid system wants to work today. And thanks for. Wait, I should I'm used to not many people being watching. I should have a message to what you're supposed to say. What should the message be? Calliope raid? That's kind of boring, isn't it? Raiding with medieval fart jokes, and I guess that was the main point of today's stream: medieval fart jokes. Okay, if you wanna copy paste that, I guess. I don't know. What was I forgot what I copy pasted earlier. What am I doing? Okay, let's attempt a raid. It wasn't always working recently. Fairly well. Is it going to work? Yes. Goodbye.